This is the famous Book of Brothers. All the great deeds of all the great kings go out there. So Jaime Lannister. Someone forgot to write down all your great deeds.
There's still time.
Hey guys, it's Chris, and welcome back to another Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction video. And today I want to talk about Jaime Lannister. What will the Kingslayer's role be in Game of Thrones Season 8, and will he survive? Alright, so let's jump right into it, and I think we already have a few scenes in our story that kind of gives us the clues as to Jaime Lannister's fate in Game of Thrones Season 8. The first one, of course, we go to him and Joffrey and Sir Meryn Trant as they talk about the Book of Brothers.
So this is the famous Book of Brothers. All the great deeds of all the great kings go out there. So Jaime Lannister. Someone forgot to write down all your great deeds.
There's still time.
Is there? For a 40-year-old knight with one hand?
So essentially, Joffrey makes fun of him for being a 40-year-old knight with one hand, but Jaime says there's still time. So that tells you right there they're going to follow up on that scene, and something's going to be written down in that book. But we also have another scene that involves the Book of Brothers as well, where Jaime gives Brienne the sword that she would name Oathkeeper, in the show at least, to help the Stark girls. And of course this time Brienne reads from the Book of Brothers, and knowing the real story of why he killed the Mad King from the bathtub scene in a previous season, she knows right there on the spot that there should be more written in that book about the details, but Jaime never let anybody in on the secret.
Sir Jaime Lannister, knighted and named to the Kingsguard in his 16th year. At the sack of King's Landing, murdered his king, Aerys II. Pardoned by Robert Baratheon. Thereafter known as the Kingslayer.
It's the duty of the Lord Commander to fill those pages.
We also have some more evidence from the books as well when Jaime has a werewood fever dream. And it is important to note that all these scenes and this dream from the books happens after Jaime loses his hand to Vargo Hoat in the books, or Locke in the show. This was his identity. Everything Jaime thought he was lost with his sword hand, until he meets Brienne. But then he goes back to Cersei and found purpose again with his children, before Cersei essentially calls their deaths. But anyway, in this fever dream in the books, he seems to be in Casterly Rock. He does recognize that, but he gets pushed down even deeper into an unknown location that seems to be similar to the Crypts of Winterfell, but it is described as sandy and wet, so we don't know exactly where this is. But in this dream, he does have his hand, and even proclaims that it feels better than sex, that he is now whole again. In this dream, he sees long-dead Lannisters all the way back to Land the Clever. He sees his father Tywin, Joffrey, and Cersei as well, and Cersei even tells him as she leaves him in this dream that he will die when the light fades. He begs them not to leave and says, at least give me a sword, and Tywin says, I already gave you a sword, and he reaches down in front of him under the water and pulls up a sword, and the sword then catches fire, which of course reminds us of the Lightbringer and Azor Ahai prophecies. Then in the same dream, Brienne appears with shackles on her hands, but then she obtains a sword as well, and it catches fire too. Then I think it really gets interesting here as Brienne and Jaime go on this little journey together in the darkness with their two flaming swords, and they come across two riders described on pale horses which make no sound, which seems to indicate they're seeing White Walkers. And of course that goes back to how they're described in my video I did about how this thing will end, and how I think the White Walkers being described as silent also connects to the Isle of Faces with the Green Men and their silent watch. But then Jaime and Brienne come across more people in this dream, and it happens to be his former brothers of the King's Guard, and more importantly, Rhaegar Targaryen shows up. Rhaegar essentially blames him for the deaths of his family, and they all remind him that he killed the king that he swore to protect. As the light from his sword goes out, and remembering what Cersei said, he cries out and then wakes up from this dream, but before he wakes up, he specifically remembers that Brienne's sword light does not fade. So now Jaime has a new purpose, helping to save the living. They've shown two scenes now referencing the Book of Brothers, without following up on this yet. So interpreting these scenes and this book-only werewood dream, I do believe Jaime will become the Queenslayer to save King's Landing, completing that circle, making him the Valonqar, at least in the books, since they technically didn't mention that part in the show as part of the Maggie the Frog prophecy, but I think he will save King's Landing from wildfire, and as part of this werewood dream he had, I do believe that he will serve and possibly save Rhaegar's son this time, and heir to the Iron Throne, Jon Snow, as a follow-up and a little payoff scene to this dream in the books as well. And I think for a little more evidence, we've already seen one Lannister actually save Jon Snow back in season 1.
You before the walls, did they?
What you looking at, Halfman?
I'm looking at you. Yes. You've got an interesting face. Very distinctive faces. I think they would look marvelous decorating spikes in King's Landing. Perhaps I'll write to my sister, the Queen, about it.
Yeah, we'll talk later, Lord Snow.
But we also have this little scene in the show from season 1 that I think they follow up with, which also seems to hint at Jaime actually helping Jon.
Let me thank you ahead of time for guarding us all from the perils beyond the wall, wildlings and white walkers and whatnot. We're grateful to have good, strong men like you protecting us.
So essentially, I think in Game of Thrones Season 8, we will see Jon meet up with Jaime and Bran, etc. I'm sure it will be an awkward meeting. I'm sure that he will talk with Bran and apologize, and Bran will likely repeat the line, "The things I do for love." But Jon and emo Bran, seeing he is not really Bran Stark anymore, will let Jaime live to help because of what he did for Bran and therefore Sansa and Arya, or at least he tried with Arya because she took care of herself. But Jaime will completely redeem himself, save Jon in some way by serving Rhaegar's son, which he failed to do in the real world, and kill Cersei to save King's Landing from wildfire, and Brienne will become the Lord Commander of the King's Guard or the Queen's Guard, whichever it may be, or at the very least she will become an official knight as a woman in our story, and she will fill out the rest of the pages in this book of brothers to pay off those scenes. So essentially, I do think Jaime has to die, but he will die a hero and be remembered this time as a hero in the Book of Brothers as opposed to the Queenslayer. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. What will Jaime's arc be in Game of Thrones Season 8? What will his purpose be? And will he survive or will he die? And as usual, thank you for all the support, especially to you guys on Patreon. And a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers, Lala Gig, Marylin Bentley, Doc Holliday, Goska, HoonJive, Horton, Erin Habig, John Carey, Anastasia, Jason Landers, DTizSmith, MJW, Carole Brown, D Brown, Mike Colton, Lisa Phillips, Alfred Borstmayer, Rob Greene, and Ricky Corotte. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support. And thank you to everyone out there in YouTube land as well. And if you dig what I do here, please comment, like, and share these videos. And be sure to subscribe to get everything and click that notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.